Hey there everybody, I'm Donnie with D3VFX. This is the third video in my four-part series where I'm documenting some of the work I did to create this environment you're seeing here in Unreal. This was a version from about a week and a half ago, but in this video I'm going to be talking a little bit about UE5 environment texturing as well as some foliage tips and tricks that I have. So, to get into it, I am using a plugin called Brushify. There are many different packs on the Epic Marketplace that range from $15 all the way up to, I think the most expensive one that has a bunch of brushes is like $200. In this case, I'm using one that I think I even got on sale, so I got it for about 15 bucks if I remember correctly. But yeah, what that does is basically you assign the material, and then based off of the slope angles and stuff like that, the Brushify plugin just goes ahead and adds grass or rocks, etc. To assign this material, though, just to show you where that's at, I did mention it in my previous tutorial, but you go in here to your landscape material. In this case, the material is called M underscore landscape. And then it sort of generates, you have to go into, I believe it's under the landscape still. Landscape paint, and here you go. You have all these different layers. I'm not going to go super in depth because Brushify has all of their own documentation on how to use their plugin, but you just give it its layer info, and then you select it, and you can paint whatever you want. Might take a second to prepare all these textures again. Yeah, there it goes, preparing shaders. So this was the grass dry versus just grass. What I ended up doing for my project in the end was when I went to render this, because I was using this for a cinematic rather than in a game, I went through and I painted this desert layer over everything that you're not really going to see in camera. And the reason I did that was because these grass maps were leading to some crashes, causing issues just being able to render to begin with, but then also giving me some issues with foliage. Um, so to kind of get around that, I grabbed this desert material, painted in where I didn't want any grass to get rid of all those grass maps. Under the water, same thing. You can see this is not very optimized. We've got grass under this entire thing that you will never see when you're above the water. This water material is also a custom water material. You can see like it detects the edges of this landscape. It'll detect any static mesh and apply these sort of ripples and everything. It's a highly customizable material. It's actually really nice. This was from another video that I came across, so I will actually include this video in the description as well, so be sure to check this out. This material teaches you a lot about how to make these materials as well as set them up to have all of these amazing controls. These are all the defaults at the moment, but you can go in, control your intensity of color, what colors you want to use, your normal maps, what intensity you want those at, what speed you want them to travel in your X or Y, etc. So super easy to customize. It only uses inbuilt Unreal Engine resources such as the water textures that they have. So it's super nice. You don't have to go to the internet for anything. You don't have to download anything, etc. Yeah, so definitely check out that video. I wrote a little bit about it in my documentation as well on my website down in the description. But some other tips here, some tips with foliage. If we go into foliage, I have some various free packs online that I went ahead and added to my scene into my content browser, dragged and dropped them in here. In this case, I don't want to paint foliage onto foliage or anything translucent, only to my static meshes on my landscape. So what I like to do is like say, I want these little sapling guys. So we can see now how this is looking. They're pretty small, obviously, because they're little saplings, and they're a little bit dense, I feel like. So let me go ahead and remove those. Let me pull out a little bit. And I'm going to increase my brush size to, because of the scale of the scene, I'm going to say something like 6,000. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, 6,000 is pretty nice for targeting these areas here. I think I'm actually going to go a little bit larger. I might double it, go 12,000. Yeah, I think that's a little more what I want. So, now that I have all three of these selected, anything I change down here in the settings is going to change with it. So the density is going to be how many it is painting within this area. So again, as a baseline, this is what 100 looks like. So fairly dense. I go and remove those. I'm going to decrease my density to something like 7. Oh, yep. We got some of them. Yeah. So, 7 might be a little bit too sparse, actually. So again, Control Z, gonna remove those. Let's try like 15. Okay, 15 is a little bit better. I'm gonna increase it a little more just because this is a fairly small mesh. 30. Yeah, I think that's more the desired result. So, in scale X, this is going to this is going to scale uniformly with the way that I have it set at the moment in X, Y, and Z. So minimum, I like to leave at 1 because, whoever designed this asset or made this asset made it to scale to what they wanted. And hypothetically, if I'm obeying real world scale with everything that I'm doing in my scene, then I'll want that scale to be the same. Max scale, though, I'll play with a little bit. So, like, let's say I'm going to make it dramatic. So I'm just going to say 8. Yeah, so now we can really see these are a lot bigger. We're going to have guys that'll be the normal size, like you kind of see with this one right here. Little small guy there compared to the rest. So that's sort of a nice way to get variation in scale. I'm going to make it a little less dramatic. Let's just say 2. Yeah, so a little bit taller. They stick out from that grass a little bit more. Let's try using a larger tree asset. So I'm going to go into interactive spruce foliage here. Or sorry, interactive spruce forest, which is a free pack on the marketplace. Mesh is full. I'm going to use the high quality ones because I want to use this for render, not for a game. So I want to get as high of a quality as I can. These guys I now have unselected. These are my selected guys that I'll be painting with. Just make sure I'm not painting anything else. Yep, looks good. So I'm going to turn the density way down again. Yeah, so now that I'm using a larger asset, this is way too much. So I'm going to clear that. Let's go back down. Let's do 4. Density of 4. Still a little bit dense, I feel like. Let's do 2.5. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better for a desired look, at least at this moment. Now you can see we've already placed around 160 to 180 of each of these trees just in this one little area, which is sort of crazy to think about. But, we can get very large numbers very fast. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye on and make sure that you're optimizing the best you can. In my case, I had like a camera right down over here, one right up over here, and one right over here. So I didn't need foliage anywhere over here, really. I didn't need foliage anywhere over here. So anywhere that you don't need foliage, that's where I'd go into Brushify, and I'd paint that desert material or some other material that's not generating a ton of grass maps, because that can just bog down at render. Same thing with the foliage then. I'd go ahead and I'd just, erase and clear out the foliage that I don't need. Now, you can also see on these sloped angles, like, oh, we have this tree here, and it's at a fairly extreme angle that maybe I don't like, or maybe I don't think that a tree would actually grow like that. And you can kind of see the LODs affect how that looks. In my next video, I'm going to cover some rendering tips and tricks, so that'll be linked in the description, and I'll talk a little bit about LODs in that and what I liked to set for my renders for some of the best results that I could get. But yeah, you can control what angles they will place at. So I believe with this ground slope angle, yeah, you can see we have a max of a 45. So if I decrease this to something drastic like 10, and then let me erase everything I have right now, foliage-wise. Let's go back into not fill, paint. Yeah, so you can see how dramatic that was. Anything at an angle greater than 10, based off of its angle off like what the world grid would be, it will not place any foliage. So if you have things placing at a weird angle, or maybe you're trying to paint and you're not placing anything, your ground slope angle Yeah, there you go. Now it pops up the little trick there, little tooltip. Um, yeah, this will control that angle that it places at. So now if I change it again, boom, now we have a whole bunch more. Now, you can also offset this, I believe. If I go into advanced, maybe. Let's see. Let me erase these. Paint. Ground slope. Let's say random pitch angle 5. Let's do something dramatic so we can see it actually. 50. Yeah, so now you can see even the ones that are on more of a flat ground randomly will be pitched to the side way more. So, if that's a desire that you have, maybe you're creating an environment that you had some sort of like natural disaster, like a hurricane just blew through or something like that, then, that's a tool that you can use to kind of manipulate your foliage placement. Now, I want to talk a little bit about foliage itself for a minute here with like our actual assets. Now, what I like to do, let me come back here and paint just a little bit to illustrate my point. What I like to do is when I come in, I'm like, okay, they have this yellowish color to them and whatnot. Maybe I want this tree to look a lot more green when I'm this close. What we can do is come into our leaf material for this particular tree, and under our leaf parameters, you can see I've already applied this. We can add a leaf tint. And this is just a very simple way to modify the materials of your foliage without actually having to rebuild the material or really go into any node graphs or anything like that. Yeah, so you see, like, if I make it like green or red, let's do that. You can see down here that we are affecting some of the trees, whatever trees that we placed that were from, let's cancel from Spruce Full 03. So you can see the red. I have not been able to find this far LOD, how to manipulate those. So, you know, any tips anybody has for that, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll be sure to pin the comment, update my docs online, etc. Yeah, for now, that's going to be my tips and tricks on landscape painting and foliage. I'll see you in my next video where I'm talking about some render tips and tricks and other practices to help you out with your Unreal Engine renders. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.